Hello everybody and welcome to IAS Radio. Today we have a discussion on print media and the internet age. We are privileged to have our guests Voureka and Sebastian Kettley. The questions we are interested in the discussion is whether print media and the internet is an either or situation or whether it can be an and with situation. Can the two forms coexist? And if so, how do they do that? If they can't coexist, which one will win out in the end? Other questions we're interested in is what happens to language itself when it is transferred into the digital realm, specifically the internet? Do we keep the same conventions? Do we keep the same multitude of diction? Or do we have a kind of dumbing down situation? What about intellectual copyright on the internet? How about the so-called democratization of the internet? Has it really brought on the promised revolution in publishing? Or has it led to an incredible mirror of vanity? And these are the questions that the panel will deal with in many different aspects. So please welcome our guests today on IAS Radio, Voureka and Sebastian Kettley.
Our world and our relationship to it would not be the same as it is today if the German Johannes Gutenberg, back in the early humanistic period around 1440, would not invent the printing press. But the creation of the printing press, Gutenberg had a chance to spread unique information and fantastic knowledge. From that point forward, we have been able to learn about the world surrounding us through shared writings such as newspapers, books, and magazines. Printed media has helped us shape the way we think, learn, and act in our modern society. We became commercialized through advertisements and now have the ability to see things we like and decide whether to buy them or not. The print media has evolved during the years, and with its involvement, the human mind has been able to write articles and share opinions that have been seen and recognized worldwide. It would have been extremely hard back at the times where there was no television or radio for people to learn and know the news. Apart from informing the world and sharing opinions, the print media was able to cultivate the human mind and behavior in many different ways. The ability of translating books and newspapers into different languages gave the first benefit to language itself. The tool of communication gave people the ability to understand new meaning of words, phrases, symbols, and even the culture of new countries and civilizations. The newspapers provided the success of introducing and highlighting work of scientists and new ideas of technologies. The ideas of science were spread around the continents, and people were able to cultivate themselves to a different extent. Sharing of political ideas grew and led many people to form revolutions against dictatorial regimes. There was a formation of parliaments and reports of deliberation. Until today, most politics are done through media. From around the 1990s, the press was introduced to the internet. All the updates, worldwide articles, colorful pictures were found in the web, and people had the ability to search on any news they liked without having to exit their house in order to buy a newspaper or magazine. The introduction of the press into the internet made the life of people much easier and faster. But on the other hand, it slowly started to kill the printing press. By the word kill, I refer to the fact that in the future there will no longer be newspapers sold in shops because people will prefer to use the news through the web. Philip Mayer wrote a book called The Vanishing Newspaper. In his book, he has included some calculation that he has done about the death of the newspapers. I would like to refer to a quote from his book saying that, it's shown in the projector, statistics show that in the first quarter of 2043, there will be a moment when newsprint dies in America as the last exhausted reader tosses aside the last crumpled edition. This quote demonstrates the amount of hours people will spend in front of their computers, laptops, tablets, mobiles, and any other type of soulless electronic that will be invented till then. According to statistics published in a newspaper called The Economist, Britons aged between 15 to 24 say they spend almost 30% less time reading national newspapers once they start using the web. Do you realize the damage the younger generation is facing? Children who will be born in the next 10 years may not even know what does a newspaper or magazine mean. They might be asked if they have seen one and reply no, because their parents read the news from the internet or the television. I do not say that we should all stop using the web and start reading only newspapers, but I strongly believe that we should not leave the print press behind, since it has given birth to the establishment of different types of worldwide ideas and the chance to cultivate our minds and the way we think and write. And next slide. I would now like to show you a poster demonstrating how newspapers are losing a large amount of money due to the internet. The title of the newspaper is Eating the Newspaper's Lunch of the poster. Like I mentioned previously, advertisement is one of the main sources newspapers receive money from. But because more people use the internet now, a large amount of advertisements have moved to the internet and have left the newspapers behind. As is shown in the poster, until 2007, the newspapers still had a fairly high percent of advertisement. But from 2008 to 2009, the percentage decreased dramatically and even fell down to minus 10%. On August 26th of 2008, Facebook had reached up to 100 million users. Its monthly growth was 178.38%. Today, Facebook has 900 million users and is said to be the third largest web company after Google and Amazon. If we take a look at the US online display advertising on the right of the picture, the forecast shows that the total percentages grow higher and higher each year, especially Google's.
We live today in a day and age when the world is rapidly digitalizing. As human beings, we consume more and more information than any generation before us. We ingest data through the radio, TV, newspapers, and the internet. Yet there are claims that these sources of information cannot coexist together, and that assuming the laws of nature, the stronger predator will consume the weakling. Shouts of anger have been raised worldwide as to the shocking revelation that the internet is about to dethrone and destroy the newspaper as our main source of news information. Well, I believe that the internet will not kill printed media. In fact, it is just a different form of written text. We have exchanged paper for a different canvas. We are evolving. The first humans wrote on cave walls. The Romans had their wax tablets, and with the invention of paper by the Chinese, we learned how to convert wood into a good material for the written word. Now the time has come for us to start using integrated circuits, silicone, and glass. Now, this reminds me of a song by the Bugles from 1979, where the band prophesied that video killed the radio star, which, by the way, was also the first video clip to be played on MTV back in 1981. Well, for many people using private transport to drive to work, the radio is the only source of both music and news in the morning hours. Well, of course, the radio is a rather uncommon sight in the evening hours when the news is watched on the TV, but radios are still an important part of our everyday life. And no, the video did not kill the radio star, and neither will the internet kill the newspaper. Of course, the number of people obtaining their daily dose of information through the internet, as opposed to print media, is growing with the number of household internet connections, smartphones and tablets. But this is only a sign of us moving forward with the time of technological invention. There are many things that cannot be taken away from a newspaper. Things that make it a one-of-a-kind experience. Newspapers as we know them are very authoritative. The rough paper, the smell of ink, and a feeling that a newspaper is a very grown-up thing to read. And of course, you would hardly swap someone on the head with a tablet if they were disobeying you, right? Patrick Dixon, a futurist who was ranked number 20 on the list of the world's 50 greatest thinkers alive, explained in an online video that the internet does not hold the upper hand in this fight. He claims that the values held by a newspaper outweigh those of the internet and handheld devices. Newspapers held a social value ever since Roman times, when bulletins would be posted all over Rome. We can hold it. The newspaper is much more than just an oversized sheet of paper with words printed on it. We can hold it, we can grasp it, and everything contained in it is in our hands, at our disposal. The internet is just a fancy thing that does not stimulate our senses like the printed news does. It is just information jammed up on a small screen that our brains do not process so well. So we have to look at ways of seeing the internet and newspapers not as competitors, but as coexisting mediums of news coverage. Why? Well, in the example of newspapers, we always know what to expect when we read the conservative Daily Telegraph or the left-wing Guardian. The internet, however, apart from having online versions of many news giants, also gives us access to scores of different sources. We don't have to limit ourselves to just news articles from the same old newspapers, with their unblemished subjectivism on matters of politics and social life. But we can look into sources such as blogs written by people who have to say something on a given topic. A newspaper only presents the voices of authorities, people who have gained the upper hand in the world of journalism and writing. They have finished the right schools, they have worked to gain a reputation and experience during years of writing, and their writing has given them power over us. We trust their judgment and opinions because they are the ones who compose our daily news. But the internet makes news coverage far more democratized in the way that we don't have to limit ourselves to the wise words of the news authorities. We can listen to the voice of the common people, such as myself or everyone gathered here today. The internet forms a kind of community of people who want to find information, people who have information, and people who want to share that information. And though this is amateurish, and we can never be sure as to the originality and truth of the words we read, the nature of this problem in itself gives us the opportunity to agree or disagree. How? Simply by posting a comment under the article that we just read. Not only does this allow us to challenge the person responsible for the text, but it also allows us to interact with many other people who have read the same article. Someone might respond, someone might add some of his or her thoughts. This gives us power in a world where mighty news giants never listen to the voice of those underneath them. They just expect us to accept the truth of their reality in their printed news. Next slide, please. So having said that, many newspapers as well as tabloids and magazines are gradually becoming more online even as we speak right now. Major titles such as The Times or the Wall Street Journal are available on the internet where we can access the articles from our devices capable of internet browsing. In the case of The Times specifically, as you can see on the slide, the web layout and design of the internet page is brought as closely to that of a printed newspaper with a simple black font and a white background, images and captions. And yet, when you scroll down the page, unique elements of internet website design are used to make to distinguish it from its printed counterpart. This goes in tune with the statement of Benga Adefaye, chief editor of the Vanguard newspapers, who claims that new media complement printed press in terms of spreading information accessibility to new platforms, and yet maintaining the newspaper's position as the most trustworthy source of news. This goes to prove that newspapers are adapting to the growing number of internet users who prefer to have their daily news presented to them in an electronic form, rather than picking up a magazine from the kiosk on the way to work. With something around 100,000 downloads, the Times application for Android-based smartphones and tablets is more proof that the news giants are willing to cooperate with their readers to give them what they want in the form they want.